what would you say are some of the skill sets that, someone who is looking to get licensed and join this industry, what are some of the skill sets you think they need to come to the table with, and mindsets they need to come to the table with? And then the second part of that question, and we can come back to it. I'll refresh it if we need to, but what do you think that they'll be able to cultivate once they actually join the industry and start working in it as well? Like what do you think it's going to add? And please even share, what do you think it's added to you? So the first question is, what skill sets, what type of mindset do you think that person needs to have coming in day one? And then the second part of that is, what do you think joining the industry will add to them from a skill set and development standpoint? Over to you.
Well, first of all, the most important skill set is communication, right? Internally, you want to make sure that you communicate that you work in honesty and integrity. Now, some do it even if they don't. Mm-hmm. But what you want to do is make sure mm-hmm. that you communicate that, because everybody, most agents are working with honesty, right? But those who are doing it need to talk about it, because everyone isn't doing that.
Yeah.
Right. You can assume that the person thinks that you're honest, but if you don't literally tell them, so communication being the number one skill set. And then organization. I took a Franklin Covey class, mm-hmm. right? And that class really taught me how to take my day. And I took a project management class, right? If you have a goal and you need to meet that goal, and then you have tasks necessary to reach that goal and timelines attached to those tasks, when they are done, the goal is complete. That type of mentality needs to be a part of your day, because when you have the independent life as a salesperson, there is no way that you can spend your day at the beach,
right?
For lack of a better term, and be successful at sales.
Yeah.
So you have to have great planning skills. And Franklin Covey taught me that take a jar, for instance, and you have things that need to go in that jar. You've got big rocks, you've got small rocks, and you've got sand.
Right.
Well, if you put the big rocks in first, meaning you work on the large portions of that project first,
you got the room.
Put in the small rocks. Mm-hmm. Then when you put in the sand, they filter right on through, right?
That's right.
So it's just a mental or a visual that really helps you to understand how to plan, the pieces and parts that are necessary to get the job done. So planning, is necessary. Communication is necessary. And being able to overcome disappointment, right? Now, I don't know that that's a skill set that you can acquire by, taking a class or working on it, but be prepared, because there are going to be days when you have great sales activity and everybody's buying from you and you're mm-hmm. on a high. But then on those days when you're not selling, you can't allow it to get in your spirit. You can't allow it to get you down. You've got to rise above it. You've got to remember that there was a day that I can bring back to now. Mm-hmm. But understand what steps you need to take to get there. Maybe you need to change the way that you're selling. Maybe you need to change the way you're prospecting. Mm-hmm. But certainly there's a need to make sure that your day is planned out properly. So I think the most important are communication and time management.
Communication, time
and
management.
How I've applied those to my life is every day that I wake up, my day is planned the night before. I have my to-do list, and on the day that I'm about to do it, I'm not wasting any time. I'm checking off the boxes, baby. And not only that, not only am I checking off the boxes, I'm rewriting my list at the end of the day so mm-hmm. that I know exactly what I'm doing tomorrow. I'm not waking up wasting time, walking around in circles. What am I going to do? Who's first? Who's second? I know what I'm going to do. My time is money. my time is a commodity and it's
Absolutely.
important. And even when communicating with my prospects, I say to them sometimes, I really want to respect your time when I'm setting up a meeting or, trying to make sure that they're going to be in attendance. I'm I really want to, I know that time is a commodity and I respect your time. Well, if you say that to them, then they might just turn around and respect yours because they know it's important to you. You have to communicate what's important to you.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry.
Absolutely. No,
I
it's
went
great,
on,
man.
but
No, I love it. So, time management, communication, organization, and I tell you, I love the analogy with the rocks and the pebbles. Believe it or not, I actually heard somebody say that just yesterday. I
really,
knew the analogy, but I heard someone in another interview I was listening to actually talk about that exercise. Putting the big, for those who don't know what that is, what Kevin was explaining is that, hey, if you have a jar and you have big rocks, little rocks, and sand, if you put all of the sand in first, you're not going to have any room for those big rocks or for those little rocks. But if you put the big rocks first, then you can put in the little rocks and then you put in the sand for all of those things. And really what that speaks to is really managing your time and managing your priorities, which is, what you were saying, and that definitely is an important skill. Do you feel like someone who would come into this space because, if you haven't done this before, right? If you haven't been if you haven't been in a place where you've had to really be responsible, for your own time. Like even for you, Kevin, you were working in IT, right? And you were working for a company at this particular time. But even in the times where I've known you, you've had a lot of flexibility. You've been able to kind of manage your own schedule to a degree, and your work product is what really allowed you to, navigate as long as you were getting those things done that you need to get done. You are coming to the table with that. What would you suggest for someone who is considering this industry that doesn't have, those experiences or that foundation? What would you recommend to them to cultivate that within themselves, the better communication? I know you mentioned the Covey program. What would you recommend, for people to develop themselves and cultivate some of those skills that you've been able to utilize to achieve your success?
well, so, in suggesting how people would improve their communication skills, I would say class, right? When you are a good writer, you know what to communicate, but in order to communicate it articulately, if that's a word, it takes practice, right? And so there's some programs like or some groups that you can join, the Toastmasters, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's all about oral speaking, and you get the confidence from doing it over and over and over.
Yes.
Even as an artist, you remember your first time on stage,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not a good feeling.
Yeah,
There's a certain
it's
level of nervousness that knocks you off your game. But the next time you go out, it's a little better. But your neck, the hair on your neck is still standing up. You tense in the back of the neck. But then after that third time, you become a little more confident and comfortable. And
right.
over and over, and now you can sing the national anthem for NASCAR on national television. I did that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And so,
Yes.
so what?
Not
What
the only pro event, not the only pro sports event that you've done the national anthem for.
No, I did it for the Washington Redskins.
Yes.
I was a season ticket holder, but I did it for the Washington Redskins as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I performed, for some very major events and festivals. I performed at the New York Hilton in New York City for Capital One's Debt and Equity Conference. I mean, we both have done some things, entertainment wise. But what I'm saying is the nervousness that takes place in communication.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to continue to do it. You can do Toastmasters or some program like that,
right?
But you have to go through the process. There's no other way to get better at communication than to communicate.
Communicate.
And to want and have a desire to communicate effectively.
Yeah.
You know, the person can find a mentor.
Yeah.
Someone who does it well. You know, if you know, like I know, sitting down and making sales calls, right? 30, 60 calls a day.
Mm-hmm.
Keep doing them. You're going to get better. What you say is going to stick in your head and it's going to start to come out.
Yeah.
But again, keep honesty and integrity in the forefront.